The Russian army has not yet managed to dislodge the Ukrainian Armed Forces from the Kursk region. This was confirmed to the Russian media by the commander of the Russian Special Forces, Akhmat, deputy head of the Main Military-Political Directorate of the Russian Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Apti Alaudinov. He posted a video of his interview on Telegram in which, in particular, he criticizes the residents of the Kursk region who left their homes because of the war and are asking the Russian army to liberate their land. According to the commander of the Chechen Special Forces, he saw several videos on the internet with appeals from grown-up healthy men who left the territory that is now controlled by the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Allegedly, these Russian citizens are making claims against the Russian military and asking when the Kursk region will be liberated. A reproach to those men who demand from the same simple men as they, "Why don't you liberate my land?" If you ask this question, then where is your conscience? Go to the military registration and enlistment office, sign a contract, come, stand next to us and show that you can do it, says the commander of Akhmat. At the same time, he claims if it were up to him, the Ukrainian Armed Forces would not have entered the Kursk region at all, or the Ukrainians would have been driven out on the very first day, back in the summer of 2024. Alaudinov also stated that the Russian Federation is allegedly fighting not with Ukraine, but with all NATO countries that pounced on the Russian Federation, God's beloved country. We must, after all, understand the realities of life. Such resources have been thrown here that it is physically impossible to knock them out in 5 minutes. We fought with the NATO bloc through Ukraine for 3 years. That is, all the resources that NATO has were thrown to defeat Russia. Thanks to the spirit of the Russian soldier, we stood firm and did not allow ourselves to be broken, said Alaudinov. According to him, Russia does not abandon its own. The holy war continues, and the Akhmatova member advised those who do not participate in it to remain silent. The propagandist claims that residents of the Kursk region are provided with adequate assistance and recommends that those who are dissatisfied compare it with the social package in Syria, Iraq, Libya, and Afghanistan. He also compared what is happening in the Kursk region with the events in Chechnya. I had this in my life when there was boiling water in the house, tea leaves to add to the boiling water, black bread, sugar, which we could pour into this tea and this black bread. It was such a delicacy. I do not see such harsh conditions as we had then. The whole country is trying to help. The administration is trying to help. And at the same time, the people who receive all this are unhappy, said Alaudinov. He also added that at one time, residents of Chechnya independently restored their housing, etc., without waiting for help from the authorities.
President Donald Trump on Monday held off on his tariff threats against Mexico and Canada for 30 days after the two U.S. neighbors agreed to boost border security efforts. According to Associated Press, Trump on Saturday had directed that 25% tariffs on most imports from the two American partners and 10% on Canadian energy products go into effect at midnight Tuesday. The two nations threatened retaliation of their own, raising the prospects of a broader regional trade war. In a statement on X, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that on a call with Trump he pledged additional cooperation on border security. It follows similar moves by Mexico earlier Monday. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau posted Monday afternoon on X that the pause would occur while we work together, saying that his government would name a fentanyl czar, list Mexican cartels as terrorist groups and launch a Canada-US Joint Strike Force to combat organized crime, fentanyl and money laundering. The pause followed a similar move with Mexico that allows for a period of negotiations over drug smuggling and illegal immigration. The 10% tariff that Trump ordered on China is still set to go into effect as scheduled on Tuesday, though Trump planned to talk with Chinese President Xi Jinping in the next few days.
And it's a pretty amazing sight. And they've agreed to put in 10,000 soldiers permanently, like forever, 10,000 soldiers at their side of the border.
Canada was staring in the face of 25% tariffs come midnight tonight. Canada had announced retaliatory tariffs if those tariffs were going to go ahead. But Trudeau, the Prime Minister for now for Canada, had a call with Donald Trump, 2 calls today, and they made progress on negotiating a deal where Canada would do more at the US-Canadian border to prevent drugs from going into the United States, even though drugs don't really go from Canada to the United States, certainly compared to what happens at the Mexican border with fentanyl.
It's not what we want, but if he moves forward, we will also act.
Canadians are furious. They're upset. They are not buying American goods all of a sudden. They're looking to see on the label where things are made. They're booing the American national anthem at sporting events in Canada, NHL games, NBA games. Canadians feel like the relationship with the United States is now broken, that after centuries of close ties and family ties, they feel betrayed. I think Canada will certainly have to deal with this tariff threat for some time. It's only been averted for at least 30 days. That Trump has continued to hold this threat over Canada before. They reached a deal in the first term and redid the United States Canada-Mexico Free Trade Agreement. We'll see if that happens again. But life under Trump as a neighbor for Canadians is very stressful. It's put Canada's economy at peril, and Canadians are furious. They are very upset with Trump and the United States, and it'll take a long time for this relationship to be recovered, even if there is a deal in the months or years to come.
U.S. President Donald Trump spoke to reporters at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland on Sunday. According to Associated Press, Trump said 6 hostages from Venezuela are now safely with their families. 6 Americans who had been detained in Venezuela in recent months were freed by the government of President Nicolas Maduro after he met Friday with a Trump administration official tasked with urging the authoritarian leader to take back deported migrants who have committed crimes in the United States. Trump said that he will retake control of the Panama Canal is driven by legitimate national security interests stemming from growing concerns about Chinese activity in the Arctic and in Latin America. Canada and Mexico ordered retaliatory tariffs on American goods in response to sweeping tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump, and businesses and consumers in both countries questioned Sunday how the new trade war might affect them. "We can play the game all they want," Trump said, adding he would speak to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Monday morning. USAID, whose website vanished Saturday without explanation, has been one of the federal agencies most targeted by the Trump administration in an escalating crackdown on the federal government and many of its programs. "It's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics. And we're getting them out," Trump said. Trump has accused Mexico, Canada and China of not doing enough to staunch the flow of fentanyl into the U.S., slapping the 3 countries with tariffs partly to encourage them to do more about the opioid that causes some 70,000 overdose deaths in the U.S. annually. "We have to stop people from pouring in, and we have to stop fentanyl, and that includes China. It's pouring in from China through Mexico and Canada. And they've got to stop it. And if they don't stop it, the tariffs are going to get worse, a lot of worse," he said.